07734 Zeptograms, our rays have converged here at BlackJupiter as defined by me, Agent Random. If you can't tell by all the math that I'm spouting out today, we're talking about Sho Minamimoto. Mr. Minami here is one of the main antagonists in the original World Ends With You, and ended up as one of the main protagonists in its sequel, Neo. But from day one, he instantly solidified himself as a fan favorite. Outside of the Traverse Town gang that appeared in Kingdom Hearts, Sho Minamimoto is probably one of the most popular World Ends With You characters. But this video really isn't a Sho Minamimoto analysis or anything. In total honesty, I am actually terrified of making a full Minamimoto analysis because of Dog Emperor, who, aside from being practically Minamimoto IRL, once wrote their own Minamimoto essay that is way more robust than anything that I will ever make. The link to that is in the description. It's genuinely wild. So I wanted to cover a different sort of Minamimoto topic, one that only I could talk about. And recently the news came out that Kingdom Hearts director Tetsuya Nomura did occasionally like to watch Kingdom Hearts videos on YouTube. So then I also got to thinking about what the silliest thing I could add to the pool of possible videos for Nomura to watch was, and the result of all this thinking, who would win in a fight? Sho Minamimoto from The World Ends With You, or Donald Duck from Kingdom Hearts? Or more specifically, I'm asking if Donald's iconic from Kingdom Hearts 3 would be stronger than Minamimoto's level I flare attack from the first World Ends With You. These are both some of the most powerful attacks in the Square Enix canon, but which one has more firepower? If a mathematician garbage man and a duck got into a death battle, then who would come out alive? I actually first saw this question raised a while back by @NTWEWY or Catsucker on Twitter, and couldn't help but give a full deep dive on the power scaling here. I mean, I have a PhD in lore for both of these series, so as far as I know or care, this problem is mine to solve. Alright, let me set both scenes for you so we know what we're working with. Minamimoto busts out the level I flare just following his defeat by Neku and Joshua after his first boss fight at the end of the World Ends With You second week. Sho starts laughing like a madman before spouting out 155 digits of pi. Joshua tells Neku that bro's doing a level I flare and then shoves Neku off a building to save his life. Or afterlife, since the World Ends With You takes place in a post-mortem competition. Anyway, Minamimoto and Joshua both seemingly get absolutely eviscerated by the attack. Although, we find out later that Joshua simply pretended to die since he actually dodged the attack by escaping to another universe. Because World Ends With You lore is silly and goofy. Go watch my other videos for all of that. As for Donald, he uses the Zeta Flare when Kingdom Hearts villain Terranort is about to pull his special attack called Murder on Sora and Kairi. So Donald takes a page out of Woody's book and roasts Xehanorts.
My guess is no one's ever loved you before.
But this time in a more literal sense. This is promptly followed up by Donald going lights out and everyone dying before Sora reloads his last save, because Kingdom Hearts lore is silly and goofy. Go watch someone else's videos for that. Man, I don't really talk about Kingdom Hearts here often enough. Square, give me another trailer to analyze, please. Now that we know what happened, what kind of attacks are they even using? What is a flare? Flare attacks originate from Final Fantasy, of which both Kingdom Hearts and the World Ends With You as a whole borrow from to varying degrees. They are attacks that are typically used as a I would like all of my enemies to explode now type. Similarly to a lot of magic from these games, the flare attacks work on a tier system. The tier is denoted by the SI prefix before the word flare. So for example, Exaflare is a weaker version of Zeta Flare. This is why people often used to say that Donald was the most powerful mage in Final Fantasy, since until Final Fantasy 16, this was the only case of flare attacks going that high in the tiering system. The Zeta Flare didn't actually first appear in Kingdom Hearts though. It didn't even first appear in Final Fantasy, no, it first appeared in another one of Square's games, Bravely Defaults. Here it appeared as an attack that the final boss Eri could throw out. Now, I am not gonna kid you, I know squat about Bravely Defaults. I did poke around the wiki and I got the impression that Eri is quite the beefy fairy, so sure, she can use Zeta Flare. To give a frame of reference for how cracked flare attacks are, Final Fantasy XIV had Bahamut cast Terra Flare as a way to soft reboot the game in an effort to make it less of a disappointment. It literally nuked everything, and that's 4 tiers lower than the Zeta Flare. Zeta Flare is literally mathematically 1 billion times stronger than the thing that reset a whole world. yeah, sure thing, Donald. Use that thing on Terranord. It's not like Terra's gonna want that body back or anything. Although, that brings up the question of if the universes of Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts, and Bravely Default even have equivalent magic to begin with. Because Zeta Flare is used by Eri as just a normal attack. I mean, a beefy one, but still just an attack. The Let's Play footage I'm showing here has the party surviving it pretty easily. Because it's a lot more fun to assume that everything does even out, I'm just gonna say that Bravely characters come beefier than most and call it at that. Eri isn't even a part of this battle anyway. This is supposed to be a fight between a feathered wizard and the guy that regularly steals clothes from ludicrously expensive clothing brands. So I'm pretty much gonna be exclusively gleaming info for Zeta Flare from Kingdom Hearts rather than Bravely Default. But even still, if Terra Flare was enough to reset a world and Zeta Flare is a billion times stronger, shouldn't it be stronger than this? And yeah, like I alluded to earlier, Bahamut casts Zeta Flare in Final Fantasy XVI. While the attack doesn't land, it is stated to be capable of destroying the whole world. So what's up with Donald's then? Well, either Donald casting this spell is like a toddler swinging a metal bat, as in they're not gonna do as much damage as someone more experienced like Bahamut, or Donald concentrated a billion times the power of a world-ending fire straight into a beam to take out Silvery Locks here. Regardless, it doesn't really matter to our discussion today of comparing Unca Donald to this 19-year-old girl's actual human pet. And speaking of show, you might notice that the level I flare does not use an SI prefix. That's because it's actually part of a whole different tiering system to normal flare attacks. Level flare attacks only deal damage to enemies if their level is either equivalent to the flare or a multiple of it. So level 4 flare deals damage to level 4 enemies and to level 8 enemies, but not level 15 enemies. Which means that the title of the attack tells us nothing. We know nothing about how powerful it actually is, just who it hits. In reality, these two attacks are actually much more different than they seem. It's almost like comparing apples and oranges. You could make the argument that the level I flare is at the power level of imagination itself, since that I is the mathematical symbol for an imaginary number. And imagination just so happens to be the power source for all of the energy in the world and the universe. So to channel that stuff into a raw attack may very well be more powerful than the Zeta Flare. But there's no actual confirmation that the level I flare is pure imagination. Like, yeah, it's called the imagination flare and it's done in a place that has direct access to a place called the imaginary number plane, but the attack being called the level I is likely a reference to it being able to hit enemies that are level I themselves or a multiple of level I, which is every number, real or not. A very good tactic to use when you're trying to cook a guy who's like the god of the city, as Minamimoto was trying to do here. But the point is, we can't be sure of how much damage this thing is doing just off of the name. All we know is what kind of targets it's supposed to be hitting. But maybe that can be a good point of comparison. I mean, all we need to figure out which of the attacks is stronger is to find a constant value between the two and compare them. And maybe by comparing the targets each attack hits, we can get that. This would then turn the question into who can take more damage, Joshua or Terranort. Except once again, the level I flare gives us problems since it doesn't actually hit its targets. Like I said, Joshua dodges the attack. You could argue that since the attack was supposed to erase Joshua, that should count for something, but I'm going to have to veto that line of thought. It's almost a running joke in this game that Minamimoto is really bad at accurately estimating how powerful Joshua is. In every other instance where Sho is absolutely convinced that Joshua doesn't stand a chance against him, Sho either ends up shot or crushed under a vending machine. So I see no reason to assume that this attack would have definitely killed Joshua. We should look for a different constant. And that constant will have to be a reverse of our last line of thinking. The key is not to measure how much damage these attacks do to their targets, but how much damage they do to their users. This time, Minamimoto is the easy one. He gets freaking atomized. Donald, on the other hand, is more ambiguous. Is he dead? Is he just sleeping? Is this something that I should expect to be weirdly plot relevant in 15 to 20 years? This is Kingdom Hearts, so I have no idea. Still, this is usable. At the bare minimum, Donald's duck body does survive when the same cannot be said about Minamimoto. And I don't know about you, but I'm gonna guess that a superhuman Reaper should be able to take more of a beating than Donald, who famously spends most of these games runtime with 0 HP. So off of that, I would have to say that Sho Minamimoto's level I flare is a stronger attack than Donald Duck's Zeta flare. At least so long as these two are the ones doing the casting. But you know, Nomura, hi, I know you're watching this. The only way for us to know for sure is to have the two fight each other in the secret boss of Kingdom Hearts 4, right? Right, yeah, we're on the same page, right? Please don't click off, Nomura. And alrighty, that should wrap it up. And as always, special thanks to our patrons, Bacon and Search Noun, Kaiser, Willpower784, Wonderland Snack, The Missing Samurai, and Ven. Also, go check out Catstalker, who made the original post about this concept. Also, if you haven't heard, there have been a few new World Ends With You related releases, both official and fan-made recently, that I definitely want to make some videos about, so keep an eye out for that soon. Until then, I will see you later.